Hello, this is Mr. Painter with another fabulous tutorial. Today we're working on the expressions and equations number 2 study guide. So what this means is you're going to have a test coming up and you want to know what's on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the study guide in detail, letting you know what is on the test and what you can expect. And then when you take a look at the study guide and you understand how to do it, well, you're going to do amazing on the test and you're just going to have a fabulous weekend after that. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with question number 1. And before we get into question number 1, we'll go ahead and take a look at the tips for doing better on a test. So notice there's a blue link. You can access that link through Google Classroom or however it's posted to take a look at that. So if you just want to do better on a test generally, take a look at that link. All right, let's get into question number 1. Okay, question number 1, what you need to know is it's going to be a multiple choice type of question. So what that looks like, it's going to look like a table with a bunch of boxes, and you're going to check the boxes that makes the statement true. Now, question number 1 is more or less a vocabulary question. So you need to understand what the vocabulary terms mean. So what we're going to do is go over these terms together so that way you're ready to go. Starting with the first term, something called the y-intercept. The y-intercept is a point where you're doing a great job by writing this down, because when you write it down, you're going to learn better too. Okay. It's a point where the line crosses. You're almost there. What do you think it's going to cross? Let me see. Y-intercept, line crossing. Oh, yeah. Line crosses the y-axis. Exactly. So it's the point where the line crosses the y-axis. That's all it is. So remember, the y-axis is the line on a coordinate plane that goes up and down, as denoted by y. So when that line crosses, say like that, well, it's going to cross right there on the y-axis. All right, cool. Now, notice that when a line crosses the y-axis, it has something called slope. The slope is the steepness. Let me see. I think it has 2 E's. Yeah, 2 E's, 1 P. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that. Let's go ahead and clear that little part. Yep. Is the steepness of a line. So think about climbing a mountain versus walking across the school campus. Which one's easier? Well, walking across the school campus is going to be easier because it has a slope of 0. But if we're going to climb a mountain, depending on which mountain it is, it could get very steep and very difficult. So when we call steepness in math, well, we just call it slope. Now, steepness and slope could be measured. All right. Use rise, and notice I'm writing rise a little bit high, over run as a fraction. Okay, so remember, rise over run is the fraction that represents the slope. The rise part is how many do you go up or down, and the run part is how many you go left or right. Pretty simple. Now, if it does simplify into a whole number, feel free to use a whole number, but watch out for those negatives and watch out for fractions that cannot be simplified. So slope, again, just steepness of a line. All right, well, what's a solution? The solution is the point. Let's see if you finish the rest. The solution is a point. Now, are you thinking about a point where 2 lines cross? Because that's correct. So, solution is the point where 2 lines cross. Absolutely. All right. So, pretty simple there. Now, when we talk about slope intercept form, there's only one formula that we've been talking about for the last several weeks. So, can you remember that formula? And it starts with y equals. Now, you thinking that formula might be y equals mx plus b? Because if you are, you got it right. Now, the only 2 things you need to know about slope intercept form is that m is the slope and b, anybody remember what the b value was? Yeah, the B value is the y-intercept. Very good. Y-intercept. Y-intercept. All right. So when you plug in the formula, the only thing you change is the m. And remember, slope represents rise over run. And that last value of b is the y-intercept. Now, if it's negative, you go ahead and change that plus into a minus. So that can happen too. All right, intersecting lines. Intersecting lines are two lines that cross one time. Pretty simple, okay? So intersecting lines are two, I'm going to put lines with an S, that cross one time. All right, so for an example, I got two lines right here. All right, they intersect right there, and they cross one time. That's intersecting lines. Pretty straightforward. Parallel lines, you have two lines that never cross. Okay, two lines that never cross. All right, so what do two parallel lines look like? They can look like 9th Street and Baseline, two streets that go along each other, but they never cross. They can look like railroad tracks or anything else that goes side by side but won't cross. So parallel lines are two lines that never cross. And the last option is something called same lines. Okay, when we talk about same lines, we're talking about two lines that are the same. Now, what do I mean by two lines that are the same? Well, two lines that are the same means we have two lines. Say we have a line here, but because they're the same, they're literally stacked up on each other and look like one line. So, same line, the two lines that are the same. All right, so that's going to get you going on the notes for the vocabulary section for question number 1. You just need to be able to identify what each one of these means and choose an option from there. Again, it's multiple choice by checking a box on the test. Now, don't forget, too, the scenarios below. So remember, if the two lines are parallel, the system is going to be inconsistent with no solution. So we've talked about this many times. If two lines intersect at one point, the system is consistent and independent with one solution. And also remember that if two lines are the same, the system is consistent and dependent with infinitely many solutions. So if you got this vocabulary down and you understand these three scenarios, you're going to be just fine on question number 1. All right, if you need more time on number 1 or want to review it again, feel free to pause the video or take a look back. Otherwise, here we go. Going to question number 2. And there's the scenarios again for question 1, so you take a look at that. All right, question number 2 are something called fill in the box questions. All right, so what does that mean? First of all, know how to do IXL GG14, the checkpoint section, to a smart score of 80. And there's a link right here if you want to go ahead and do that. Now, if you're able to do GG14 to a smart score of 80, you're going to be just fine on question number 2 because it's almost identical to this IXL. In case you're kind of stuck on that IXL, feel free to watch the help video. There's a help video right here link. You could use that. And let's go ahead and go over the example problem in case you just want a little bit more help. So in the example problem, they're going to give you something called a two-way frequency table. Well, why is it called a two-way frequency table? The two ways that it goes is it can work its way down. 10 plus something equals 19. Also going down, something plus 7 equals 21. And something plus something equals 40. Now, that's one direction. Now, why it's called two-way is it also goes towards the right. So the way it could be seen as 10 plus something equals something. Something plus 7 equals something we don't know. And checking the bottom row, 19 plus 21 equals 40, which is true. So now what you got to do is take these order of operations and see, well, what fits in there. So now this first box, I think we can do just fine. Now try to think to yourself, well, 10 plus something equals 19. Let's try that. 10 plus something equals 19. Now remember, your something, you can call that x. So what happens is if we take the opposite operation, subtract 10 from both sides, x equals, because 10's canceled out, 19 minus 10 is positive 9. See how simple algebra is? Algebra comes in really handy. It's also called a one-step equation. So when it comes to the girls needing a line paper, we have a total of 9. All right, let's go to the next box here. We're looking for the boys in the graph paper. Well, we have 10 plus something equals something, which makes it too hard because there's something called two unknowns. So what I want to do is I want to go up and down like I did before to figure out the missing box. So the way this writes out is we got something, let's call it x, plus 7, remember working down, equals 21. Well, x plus 7 equals 21. Well, subtract 7 from both sides, we have x equals, because 7's cancel out, and 21 minus 7 is 14. So we have a 14 here. Now we got to fill out the last two boxes. So we got actually a straightforward operation here. So let's do 10 plus 14. Let's see, 10 plus 14. Oh, 10 plus 14 is 24. And my last box here, I can either use 24 plus x equals 40, or even simpler, you can use 9 plus 7 equals something. Let's see, 9 plus 7 is 16. Now, one way to check it is, does 24 plus 16 equal 40? See, 24 plus 16 does equal 40, so we know we're good. And that's really all that is to the problem. So question number 2 in your test, if you can fill out a two-way frequency table just like I did here with the missing boxes, you're good to go. That's what that question is looking for. Feel free to pause the video if you need more time on it, or rewind accordingly. Otherwise, go on to question number 3. Okay, question number 3, what we're going to do is we're going to fill in the boxes. So question number 3, it's going to say, be able to write the y-intercept and slope from a graph. Watch out for increment values used on the x and y axis. For an example, below are the x-axis counts by 200s per box, and the x-axis could count by ones. This will affect your slope. Now, I'm not liking this problem too much because it's all over the place here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bump this down to its own page, just like you see on your sheet, and it's going to make it nice and easy to read. That's what we're looking for right there. All right. So first question that they're asking is, you got to read the description right here. Okay, so we have an example problem. All right. They are asking for right here, this is the key. This is what we're looking to do. So reading it, the y-intercept of the estimated line of best fit is at 0, comma b. Note that 0 represents an x value and that b represents a y value. Enter the approximate value. The approximate means as close as the value you can figure it out. Okay, it doesn't mean it have to be exact. Okay, approximate means the closest value possible of b in the first response box. Okay, because they're asking for the approximate value of b, they're asking for simply what is the y-intercept. That's all they're asking for. It even says right here, what's the y-intercept? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to locate the y-intercept is where do you think the line is going to cross the y-axis? And it looks like right here it's going to cross right at something called 1400. So in the first box, all you're going to do is put the number that represents the approximate value of b that you think is going to cross the y-axis. To me, it looks like it's really close to something called 1400. Don't put anything else in there. Don't put the whole formula. Don't put any of that stuff in there. Just enter the approximate value. In this case, the y-axis, it's going to touch at 1400. All right, now there's one more box. So notice that there is one more thing to do. So we got to read the third line down. Enter the approximate slope. Okay, the approximate slope means, well, to the best of your ability, of the estimated line of best fit in the second response box. So remember, slope is something called rise over run. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out, well, how many do you need to count up and over to get to the next point? Now, 1400 looks like a fabulous point because it crosses both the vertical and horizontal grid lines. Now, right here is a bad point because it only crosses the vertical grid line. Horizontal only, no good. Vertical only, check that out right there. That's also a great point because it crosses the horizontal and vertical grid lines at the same time. Now, if you're thinking, oh, well, the slope is 2 over 3, you would get this question wrong. So be careful. Do not count the boxes on the graph because you would get this wrong. What you need to do is look at something called the increments that are posted in the x values and their increments posted in the y values. Notice that they are not the same. So instead of counting up 1 and 2, well, starting at 1,000 and counting up by 1 and 2, from 1,000 to 1,400, we actually rose by 400. So one more time, counting it by 200 plus 200 is 400. So the rise is 400, not 2. Now, looking at the x values, because we need to go up 1 and 2 or up 400, we're going to count the boxes to the left by ones because look at 1, 2, 3. They're just in regular order. So 1, 2, 3. So the rise is 400 over 3. Now, before you put 400 over 3, ask yourself, can you simplify it? And 400 divided 3 is not a very good number. It's not very simple. So what we can do is we can leave that in simplest form as 400, and you're going to put the forward slash over 3. So use the forward slash when you need to enter a fraction. And that's going to be it for question 3. So all you're going to do is enter the y-intercept for the first box, and for the second box, in simplest form, if you can simplify it, enter the slope rise over run. If you can simplify it down to a whole number on the test, please go ahead and do so. All right, looks like we're ready for question number 4. Question number 4 is actually very, very similar to question number 3. So we're going to breeze through it just a little bit more quickly. So notice that some notes on the test, you're going to be filling in the boxes, which look like these two boxes right here. It's going to be nearly or almost exactly like question 3. So question 3 and 4 on the test, again, are almost the same. You need to know how to find the y-intercept from a graph and find the slope. If you need more help on this problem, or you want to just be sure to lock it down and be like, yeah, I want more practice, make sure you have your IXL AA9 to a SMART score of 80. And if you need help on that, feel free to watch the help video. But if you can get AA9 to a SMART score of 80, you're going to do just fine on question number 4 on the test. Let's take a look at the example problem. The example problem is this. The y-intercept of the estimated line of best fit is at 0, b. Remember, 0 represents the x, the b represents the y. Enter the approximate value of b in the first response box. Notice that they make it so confusing, but when they're asking for the approximate value of b, they're just asking for what's the y value, which means what is the y-intercept. So guess what? All that complication was, dear student, what's the y-intercept for this problem? Where did it touch the y-axis? At 5. So you enter a 5. That's all they're asking for. So again, y-intercept, where did it touch the y-axis? It's touching at 5. All right. There's one more box. Read the second part. Enter the approximate slope of the estimated line of best fit in the second box. So remember, we're looking for slope. Rise over run. Check your increments out. Make sure you're counting correctly. So we are going to count by ones using the x's. And we're also going to count by ones using the y. So we can count boxes in this case because the boxes do count normally. 1, 2, 3. Same thing. 1, 2, 3. All right. Before we find slope, we need to find 2 points. Using 1 point at positive 5 is a great place to start. I wouldn't go there. No, 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 yes. These are 2 great points to use when finding the slope. First of all, because the slope goes up to the right, the slope must be positive, so we don't have to worry about a negative. If it was negative, you'd put the negative first in the second box. All right, let's count it up. Rise over run. We're going to rise 1, 2, 3. Rise 3 over 1, 2, 3, 4. Run 4. Now ask yourself, can you simplify 3 over 4? And 3 over 4 does not simplify. 3 over 4 is actually the same thing as 0.75. Doesn't work. So 3 over 4 is your final answer. So again, question 3 and 4 almost exactly the same, but just watch your increments. It's kind of the trick on one of these questions. If you need more time, feel free to pause the video. If not, let's go to number 5. All right, question number 5 is fill in the blank. So the fill in the blank kind of question. So there's no multiple choice, so you can't just guess. So you're going to need to know how to do this one. The key here is make sure you know how to do IXL CC3 to a smart score of 80. This is going to be a word problem type question. So remember, IXL CC3 are the word problem system of equations. So that will be important for you to know how to do. All right, let's take a look at the example problem. Jose needs to fill baskets up with apples. Apples. Option number 1, he has 5 full baskets with apples and is filling them at a rate of 2 baskets per hour. Or option number 2, he has 7 full baskets with apples and filled them at a rate of 1 basket per hour. Enter the time in hours where both baskets are equal. All right, kind of tricky. So the easier way to do this is to create equation for options 1 and option 2. And here's how you create the equation. You don't want to complicate it. Remember, to create the equation, you're going to use y equals mx plus b. The only 2 things you're going to change is what's the slope and what's the y-intercept. So for option number 1, y equals stays the same. The slope is something called the rate. Because the rate is 2 baskets per hour, the slope is 2x. And where the baskets are full already is something called the y-intercept. So because he has 5 full baskets already, we're looking for a 5 there. Pretty nice, right? So option number 2, remember, same formula, y equals mx plus b. He has 7 full baskets with apples and filled them at a rate of 1 basket per hour. So we have y equals 1x because the rate is 1. So we're going to use 1x. But the basket is full of 7 already, 7 apples plus 7. All right, now that we got 2 equations, you can graph these, you can use substitution or something called elimination to figure out, well, where do the lines cross? Because these 2 lines are going to cross somewhere. All right, in order to solve this problem, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use something called elimination. So the way elimination works is we got y equals 2x plus 5, and we got y equals 1x plus 7. Notice that the y values are exactly the same. So what I can do is I can turn this into a subtraction problem, and that would cause my y values to eliminate, hence why we call this elimination, and I'll only be solving for the x values. Now, when you subtract, you have to subtract everything. So we're going to subtract the x, and we're also going to subtract the 7. So here's how this works. We got y, subtract y, which leaves you with nothing. 2x minus 1x leaves you with 1x. And 5 subtract 7 gives you negative 2. So one more time, we have 5 minus 7, because when you have a positive and a negative, that's actually a giant negative there. So 5 minus 7 is negative 2. And just solve for x. Once you solve for x, that's your time when both baskets are equal. So we're almost there. So we're going to add 2 to the right side. But if I add 2 to the right side, I need to add 2 to the left side to keep the equation balanced. 0 plus 2 is 2 equals 1x, and the 2's eliminate. Now, we only got one number left in front of the x. And remember, anything with a 1 doesn't change anything. It's just a placeholder. So you have 1x. Well, wait a minute. 1x is the same thing as x, and x equals 2. Now, if you're not happy with it the way it's written, believe it or not, 2 equals x is the exact same thing as x equals 2, right? So for an example, if you have 2 plus 3 equals 5, well, switching the equal sign, 5 equals 2 plus 3, guess what? They both work. So when you see it written like this, it actually means the same thing as that. And because x represents our rate and we're asking for the time in hours, well, how many hours? 2. So we're just going to put a 2 there and we're done. So use elimination when you get a word problem like that. So that's going to be the most helpful. Feel free to pause the video if you need a little bit more time. But otherwise, moving on to question 6. Here we go. All right, question number 6 is a multiple choice question, and you're going to solve by substitution. What's going to be helpful here is make sure you know how to do IXL CC10 to a SMART score of 80. If you know how to do IXL CC10 to a SMART score of 80, you're going to be just fine and dandy there. And know how to identify a solution if it's possible. Now, be careful on question 6 because they can give you something called a no solution or an infinitely many solutions as an answer. And you have to be able to pick that out. All right, taking a look at question number 6, what I would do is use something called elimination. So we're going to use elimination. And the reason why we're using elimination is there's no good value for x or y. Notice that they all have coefficients. So like for an example, the coefficient of x is 3, the coefficient of y is 2, well, y up here is negative 10, and x right here is negative 8. All right, so here's how elimination works. So we have negative 8x minus 10y equals 2, and we have 3x plus 2y equals negative 13. So the way elimination works is what you want to do is either add or subtract something to make one of the variables go away. Now notice that 10 and 2 could work nicely together. So for an example, the 2, what would happen if I take the whole bottom row and multiply by 5? So what would happen is it'd be 5 times 2 to give you 10, and check that out. Positive 10 minus 10 would make the y's go away. So the first row, negative 8x minus 10y equals 2, we're going to leave alone because that's fine. Now we're going to use the distributive property of multiplying by 5 because we want that y to come out to a 10 as well. So 5 times 3 is 15x. 5 times 2 is plus 10y. And 5 times negative 13 equals negative 65. So what we can do is we can just add and subtract going down each particular column. So if you have negative 8x's plus 15x, seems kind of confusing. Go backwards. 15 minus 8 is positive 7x. A negative 10 and a positive 10 are something called inverses. Inverses means they are opposite of each other, which means, poof, they go away because they cancel out. And 2 minus 65, careful, we have integers here. So positive 2 subtract 65 is actually going to give us a negative 63. So imagine owing $65. Somebody comes along, gives you $2. Well, you owe just a little bit less than what you started out with. Now, check this out. You're thinking, well, 7 times what gives you negative 63? Well, if I divide 7 from both sides, because remember, we're solving for x, 7's eliminate, x comes down, equals negative 63 divide 7, it's going to give you negative 9. Pretty nice. So we have an x value of negative 9. Now we need to find ourselves a y value. So remember, when we're looking for a solution, we need to be able to pick the multiple choice problem out. All right, so let's see what happens here. We're going to take our x value and plug it in, let's say the first equation, and see how it works out. So we have -8. Remember, x is now times -9, because we're going to use, again, this first equation right here, minus 10y equals positive 2. Now just solve for y. Whatever y is equal to, we'll have our solution. So we have -8 times -9 gives you positive 72. Subtract 10y equals 2. Now we got something called a two-step equation. A two-step equation is where you have 2 more steps to go in order to solve for y. The first step is to add and subtract the 72 first before multiplying and dividing the 10. So the opposite of having positive 72 is to subtract 72 from both sides. Remember, whatever you do to one side to isolate, which means get y by itself, you must do to the other side. So 72 to eliminate, negative 10y comes down equals 2 subtract 72. Ooh, that's not good, right? So if you have $2 and you owe somebody $72, you now owe $7. Okay, so you don't owe as much because you have a positive number to help bring your owing down. All right, last step, divide both sides by -10. So divide -10, divide -10, and y equals, because negatives eliminate, 10s eliminate, y is by itself, nicely done. Negatives eliminate, zeros eliminate, 7 divide 1 is going to be positive 7. So because this is going to be a multiple choice question, you're going to look for some sort of answer that has parenthesis, x is -9, so -9, comma, y is positive 7. So you're going to look for a value that would fit the equation. Now, another good thing about multiple choice is, let's say they give you a bunch of answers. So let's say they got A, B, C, D. And they're going to give you some points, right? All right, let's say we got 3, 4, the right answer of -9 and 7, 8 and 2, and 1 and 5. If it's multiple choice, what you can do is you can take these, for an example, 3, plug that in for x, and take the 4 and plug that in for y. If the equation's true and it works for both, then the answer is right and you don't have to worry about this method. So one more time, again, when it's multiple choice, you don't have to necessarily solve it by this method. You can do something called backwards plug it in and see which one of these works. So when you plug in -9 for x here, and -9 for the second x here for the 3, and 7 for 10, and 7 for the 2, well, guess what? B would work out and make both equations true, where A, C, and D would not work out. So your option, you can do whatever you want. So again, multiple choice, you can plug them in, see which ones work. This is a lot like AA1, I believe, where you just plug in, see which one works. Or if you want to work it out and just do it that way, you can pick it out too. That's really up to you. All right, question 7 is almost exactly like question 5. Now, I don't remember question 5. What was question 5 asking about? Question 5 was a word problem. So again, going back to knowing IXL CC3, now you got 2 questions on that same IXL. Again, I would make sure IXL CC3 is done, because you're going to get asked multiple questions on that. And it's going to be multiple choice. All right. Question 8, make sure you know how to do IXL CC8 to a SMART score of 80. And you have an example problem and what's the solution to the problem below. So this one here, I don't remember if it's multiple choice or fill in the box. It wasn't indicated here. But what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and solve for x, and you're going to solve for y to create an ordered pair. So again, you're looking for that ordered pair. And it's kind of like question number 6. So I'm going to write like question 6. Okay, so you can use question 6 as a basis of working this out. What I would do here is, remember I multiplied the 5? Here you can use substitution even. You can plug stuff in for y. You can use that too. It's up to you. So let's go ahead on this one. What to do. Let's go ahead and use something called substitution because I did elimination up here. All right, substitution is this. What we're going to do is we're going to take this second problem here and get y by itself. So I have negative 2x plus y equals 7. So what happens is I'm going to add 2x on both sides to get y by itself. So 2x's eliminate. Y equals, let's do 2x first, plus 7. Okay, now because we did that with the second equation, what I want to do is plug this part in. This is substitution. And for the first equation, for the y value only. So the first equation is going to be this. So we have 3x plus 2 multiply. See how it's asking for the y value? Well, the y value is right here. Y equals 2x plus 7. So 2x plus 7 is now taking place of that y value here, equals negative 14. So here we're just solving for x. Let's do distributive property. We got 4x there. 2 times 7 is 14. I think about that for a minute. Everything else comes down to negative 14. And because we didn't touch the 3x, that could also come down there. 3x plus 4x equals 7x plus 14 equals negative 14. Subtract 14 from both sides, so minus 14 minus 14, because we're trying to get x by itself. So we have 7x equals 14 throughout. Now careful, a negative 14 minus another negative 14. So again, negative 14, the same thing. You're going to add them together, so it's like owing $14 twice. So now you're out 28. Last step, opposite of multiply is divide 7. So divide 7, divide 7. We have x equals negative 28 divides 7 is negative 4. Use a calculator if you get stuck on that part. So there we have an x value. Now we need a y value. We can go ahead and use the second equation to find our y value. So second equation, we have negative 2x plus y equals 7. So what did I do? Use the second equation here. Just copied it down. Let's see. We're going to use x as negative 4. So I got negative 2 multiplied negative 4 plus y equals 7. Now just solve for y, and there's my other value right there, right? So I got negative 2 times a negative 4. Negative times a negative is a positive. 2 times 4 is 8 plus y equals 7. Oh, look how nice this came out, right? Minus 8 from both sides. We have y equals 7 subtract 8 is negative 1. So now, when we either it's fill in the box or multiple choice, I don't remember which one it is, but you're going to look for the x value of negative 4, comma, the y value of negative 1. So the answer is negative 4, negative 1. Because remember, a solution is where the two lines will cross. That's what we're looking for question number 8. Now, a little bit of a doozy. That was fun, though. Made you think a little bit. What's happening for question number 9? Question number 9 is a multiple choice question. Know how to identify many solutions from two equations not in y equals mx plus b form. On this one, just know how to do IXL CC5 to a smart score of 80. Feel free to watch the video if you haven't done that or need to review. But almost exactly like CC5 on number 9. So there's no example problem on that because IXL CC5 is just so similar to that. All right, question 10 is a fill in the box question. Notice that it's almost like questions 3 and 4. So you've seen this before. You need to know how to find the y-intercept and know how to find the slope and know how to do A89 to a smart score of 80. So A89's also come up 3 times. So make sure you gotta know IXL A89 because that one keeps coming up. Remember to follow the directions. So it says the y-intercept of the estimated line of best fit is at 0, B. Enter the approximate value of B in the first response box. Well, what's the value of B? They're asking for the y-intercept. So again, very complicated way. They want the y-intercept. Take a look. Where is the line crossing? Looks like it's crossing the middle of nowhere. So you have to be creative and know what number is between, in this case, 100 and 140. So the number between 100 and 140, halfway between, is something called 120. So 120 would be perfect right here because it's exactly between. Now the slope is rise over run, so we can use 120 here as a point. New, actually right here works good too, and I'll use a point there. Okay, remember approximate means as close as possible, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but if it's too far off, yeah, it's not going to be right. All right, so the approximate value is, watch your increments. Notice it goes up by 20. Looks like 40, 60, up 80, 100, 120. So each box is 20 going up. And on this side, we have for the X values, each box is going to be worth a total of 4. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, I believe 28. Gotta be careful, right? So here we go. If we're going to go up by 1 box, we're going to count up 20 over 4, 8. So over 8. And how did I get that? Remember, slope is rise over run. Now, 20 over 8 could be simplified. Do simplify if possible because you can simplify by 2. 20 divided 2 is 10. And 8 divided 2 is 4. Now ask yourself, can you simplify a 10 and a 4? And actually, you can divide by 2 again. So 10 divided 2 is 5. And 4 divided 2 is 2. So 5 over 2 will be the same thing as 20 over 8. But we're going to use the 5 over 2. All right, so very similar to questions 3 and 4. Just, again, watch your increments because the boxes count differently from the x-axis and the y-axis. They are different. All right, we're starting to wrap up. We got 3 more questions. Question 11. It's going to be a fill in the solution, which is a blank box. IXL CC10 is going to be very helpful in this case. So if you haven't done IXL CC10 to a smart score of 80, you need to do that because you're going to need to know to find a solution. Also, you need to know that X and Y. Well, what is X and Y? That's a point where 2 lines will cross and you only need 1 coordinate. What does 1 coordinate mean? Because the solution is X and Y, if you read the actual question and what it's asking for, it says enter the X coordinate of the solution to the system equation. So guess what? Whatever the X value is here is all they're looking for, and they don't care about the Y value. So once you get an X value, you can stop. So in a way, makes this problem a lot quicker. So what do we do here? We can do elimination or substitution. I believe we're trying to solve for X, so we don't want to eliminate the X, so therefore I want to eliminate the Y's. But if I take the entire second problem and change it to negative, we're going to go ahead and be able to do the opposite going down. So the negative distributes in, so we got negative 2X, negative 2Y, and negative 12. And now we can just subtract going straight down. Negative 2X minus 2X is going to be negative 4X. Positive 2Y and a negative 2Y eliminate, so that gives us equals. That was the whole point, to eliminate the Y's. And 20 minus 12 is 8. Divide -4 both sides. We have x equals, negatives are out, 4s are out. 8 divide 4 is 2, but because we have a positive divided negative, x equals -2. And because we're only looking for the x value, because it says enter the x coordinate, we just put in -2 and we're done. So notice this one's a lot shorter than the earlier problems because they only want one value and we're not looking for that second value. So watch out for those. Those are actually pretty nice because, again, it makes the problem a lot shorter. Notice I got it done in just like 3 steps. But again, if you need more help on the question 11 or you're having a hard time understanding it, just iExcel CC10, get that smart score up to an 80, and it's going to help you out. All right, question 12. We're going to fill in the boxes. It's almost like question number 2. All the boxes are going to be blank. So all the boxes are going to be blank in the two-way frequency table, and you need to fill them in with some information given to you. Go back to iExcel GG14 to the checkpoint to remember how to do this. Okay. And we do have an example problem here that will help us do it. So here's the scenario. There's 9 blank boxes and you got to fill them all out. Well, how do we do that? We do that by reading the question. Miss Woodman is giving her class a research project on a historical figures of the Revolutionary War. She asked her students whether they would prefer to make a video, documentary, or a stage live performance. The table shows the results. So what you got to do is you got to take this information in the table and figure out where to plug it into the table here. All right. So what do we got? What's our scenario? We got a video documentary, live performance, a total of that. Boys, girls, and a total of that. All right. So when it comes to the totals and the gender, the boys have 31. So somewhere in these 9 boxes, that 31 has to go in there. So we got to figure out, well, which box is that? So we know that we're talking about a total and the boys at 31. Well, boys right here and total intersect right here, which the 31 must go here. Make sense? So boys are totaled at 31. So 31 here, which means the girls for the total 33 goes here. Now, when we talk about preference refers to, are they doing the video documentary or are they doing the live performance? Now, we have 42 that want to do a video and 23 that want to do a live. Well, where do those go? So if you go back to here, those are also totals. So total for the video, total for the video is 42. And for the live performance, the 23 goes right here for the live. So now what you can do is figure out, well, how do you fill this out? Now notice that we can do 42 plus 23 would give us, I don't remember that one, 42 plus 23. We got 2 plus 3 is 5. 4 plus 2 is 6. So we are going to have a total of 65 here. So now we got 5 boxes filled out. But the problem is we got 4 boxes here that are undetermined, which makes it pretty tricky. Oh, there's actually a couple more directions right here that might help us. Out of 23 students who prefer live performances, 23 live, total 23. Okay, that 23 is already there. 17 girls would prefer a live performance. Okay, so live performance, the girls, that 17 lands right here. Awesome, that just got us yet another box, and now we got 6 out of 9 boxes complete. Well, now I can go backwards. Well, what about solving for the girls if they want to do a video documentary? So for this box here, we can call that x plus 17 equals 33. And why I put 30? I don't know, because it should have been 33. So you're probably thinking, well, like, what? Yeah, there we go. All right, solve for x, minus 17 both sides, minus 17. We have x, 17, they're out, equals 33 minus 17. Yeah, I got to borrow, so I got 2 here, 1 there. So 13 minus 7, 13 minus 7, 6. And 2 minus 1 is 1, so I got 16. So I got 16 here. And now I got 2 more boxes to go. Now, something plus something, it makes it too hard to get 31, because I can do 15 plus 16 gives you 31. I can do 16 plus 15 give you 31. There's too many combinations, right? So what you want to do is you work your way down, so that way you only have one unknown. So let's start with this one. So we have an unknown, x, plus 16, again, I'm working down, equals 42. And this is going to be able to get my boxes filled out. So opposite, minus 16 from both sides. Notice everything from the beginning of the school year is just coming on back. All right, minus 16, they're out. We have x equals 42 minus 16. I got to borrow on this one. So that borrowed 3, got a 1 there. 12 minus 6 is 6. And 3 minus 1 is 2. So I have 26 boys that want to do the video documentary. And the last one is how many boys want to do the live performance. So unknown plus 17 equals 23. So unknown plus 17 equals 23. Minus 17 from both sides. We have x equals 17. They're out. 23 minus 17, not bad at all, is 6. I'm going to double check that. So borrow from the 2. I got a 1, 13. Yeah, 13 and 7 gives us 6. Nice. So 6 goes there. So that's what they're going to ask you on question 12. Be able to fill out the entire table based upon a secondary table and one sentence. The one sentence will give you that last bit of information to get you to fill out the rest, because all the numbers have to be exact or it will not be right. All right, wrapping up this tutorial, question 13. Know how to do CC3. I believe this has popped up before. Know those word problems. There's going to be some sort of word problems. If you know how to do CC3 to a SMART score of 80, you're going to be just fine on that. Once you're done with question number 13, you're going to be done with the test. If you're done early and you just want to be like a math champion, you can become a master at the systems of equations by doing these IXLs for extra credit. Take a look at CC14. Besides that, it looks like you guys are ready to go for the test. Feel free to look up at any part of the video if you're confused or need help. Remember, each part of the questions has extra help. So again, this is all about question GG14 and IXLs. Use that for help. Same thing here. Question 11 if you want more help, CC10, and so forth. Thank you and have a fantastic day.